Have enough, you feel tired and sluggish. But too much iron isn't good either. In some cases, it can lead to diabetes or even heart failure. The same thing applies to much of the microscopic life in the oceans. Iron is a key nutrient, but too much of a good thing can be bad. Overdoses of iron in single-celled organisms more than 2 billion years ago may have slowed the evolution of Earth's atmosphere. These organisms are known as cyanobacteria, and they're still around today. As they convert nutrients and sunlight into usable energy, they release oxygen. Much of it bubbles to the surface and enters the atmosphere. In fact, cyanobacteria were responsible for giving Earth an oxygen-rich atmosphere in the first place. The early atmosphere contained almost no oxygen at all. As cyanobacteria developed and spread, though, they pumped vast amounts of it into the air. There was an especially big uptick about 2.3 billion years ago. A recent study, though, says that large amounts of iron in the water may have slowed things down. Iron-rich water was released from volcanoes on the ocean floor. The iron overloaded many of the microscopic organisms, killing them off, so the atmosphere got its oxygen in waves. When there was just the right amount of iron, lots of oxygen was added. But when there was too much iron, the process slowed down, delaying the transformation to the life-supporting blanket of air we enjoy today. Science in the Sea is a production of the University of Texas Marine Science Institute at Port Aransas. I'm Holly Brawley.
Freeway Auto Center is your road to home. Now open and ready to send you home in a much better car than you're driving now. Freeway Auto Center has a special phone number for KCAA listeners. Get ready, get a pen. Here's the number you need. Right now, in the 909 area code, call 269-8731. Got it? 269-8731. That's the number you need for Freeway Auto Center. Just call 909-269-8731 and ask for the road to home. You may need to unload a car that costs more to fix than you paid for it. Maybe you need a dependable car for your kids to go to college. Maybe it's just time. Freeway Auto Center on Waterman, north of the 10, has the selection you're looking for. Freeway Auto Center will get you there. Call 909-269-8731. That's 269-8731. That's your number for Freeway Auto Center.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family-owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog, or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
Were you involved in an auto accident? Do you know where to go for repairs? Are you tired of getting ripped off by high prices and inferior work? Then visit us at Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint, located in Riverside at 6411 Industrial Avenue, Suite A. We have an award-winning team of specialists with more than 40 years of auto body work experience. We were also voted number 1 in the Inland Empire by MyFox LA. We work with all major insurance companies and use state-of-the-art equipment to get your car back on the road. We work on all makes and models of cars, including RVs. Our auto paint specialist will make sure the job is done right. At Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint, your satisfaction isn't just a goal, it's what drives us. We focus on your needs. Call us for a free estimate at 951-637-1365. That's 951-637-1365. Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint.
Are you tired? Are you tired of being tired? Do you hate your job? Do you feel like you're on a hamster wheel and want to jump off into balanced living? Then tune in every Thursday at 7 p.m. for Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. It's a show about hope and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So there's no CNN, constantly negative news, no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kardashian talk. Instead, you will hear callers ask Dr. Marissa, also known as the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura, for advice about love, hate, money, jobs, sex, and what to do next. So join me every Thursday at 7 for Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa on KCAA AM 1050 NBC News Radio. This is Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah, signing off until then. Peace in and peace out.
The other station claims to be local. Since when is Glendale local? KCAA News Talk 1050, your true local station.
Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear, we're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought.
From the mountains to the desert to the oceans to all across America and back to wonderful downtown San Bernardino, welcome to the Water Zone on KCAA 1050 AM. I'm Rob Starr, along with, I have to introduce Mike tonight again, the competitive, creative, clever, and colorful character who consoles challenging crowds of cautious cynics with confidence in a calm and cheery condition, Mr. Mike Barron.
Thank you very much, Rob. That is one of your best introductions so far. That's because they're all good. They're all so clever.
I'm going through the
alphabet.
I should have done it in order.
Hey, which means we're going to be on the Water Zone a few more weeks, aren't we? We're going to take it all the way into.
Well, actually, we'll be short, so we'll have to the alphabet's shorter than the length of time we'll be on. So
we'll just have to start over.
Absolutely.
Oh well, hey, do we have some news this evening?
Now with the news, Mr. Mike Barron.
Well, hey, the state of California just reported another record-setting month for reducing water consumption, 27% in the state of California, which now makes it June, July, and August, 3 summer months where the governor's mandate to reduce water consumption by 25% or more has been exceeded. So I'm
declaring the drought over.
Well, you might declare it over, but I don't think Governor Brown is declaring it over. In fact, what I hear is that
let's get Jerry on the phone.
We've got to we've got to get through the end of February to hit our goal of saving the number of acre feet of water that's going to get us through a 5th year of drought in case that El Nino doesn't materialize the way we all hope it will, which kind of brings up an interesting question. And if there's any listener that knows the answer to this, we'd love to have them contact us.
Yeah, please call in at 909-888-5222, or if you're outside the area code, 888-909-1050.
So I want to know, has Las Vegas set the odds? Instead of over-under, it's before or after the date upon which the first El Nino storm hit Southern California.
I'm sure they'll bet on that.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Well, hey, if you know for a fact and have an answer to that question, give us a call, and we will give you a $50
gift certificate
for dinner.
I like that.
That's what we'd like to do.
And, we're going to be in Las Vegas next week. Maybe we can talk to some of the odds makers.
Hey, we'll check that out. By the way, speaking of Las Vegas, rumor has it that the Water Zone will be broadcasting direct from the Water Smart Innovations Conference.
Absolutely.
That is happening next month
next week.
Next week. That's right.
Here.
I was just hoping it was still a month away.
Wednesday through Thursday.
In the South Point Hotel. And if you want to learn about what's going on with water, EPA WaterSense will be there. Many manufacturers will be there. Water agencies will be there. And it's amazing what you can learn by attending the breakout sessions at that event.
And we're going to get a few people on who run the show, and we're also going to get some people who are manufacturers, have some new technologies, and talk about that, and have an opportunity for people to call in and ask them questions on what's new.
And speaking of new technologies, I was privileged to be in attendance when that winner of our Water Zone contest got a retrofit upgrade of their standard sprinkler system to a Water Smart high-efficiency Toro sprinkler system.
And that's the Jorgensens of Long Beach.
Yes. And,
lovely people.
They are, and they were just very appreciative of the rotating stream nozzles that now water their front lawn much more efficiently.
And how about that smart controller?
Oh, the Evolution.
Yep.
You know what they really enjoy doing? The remote. They went to the furthest corner of their front yard, furthest away from the controller, which is in a little cabinet with all the, what do you call those things that, the circuit breaker at the house. And they were able to turn on a zone, turn it off, and they just thought that was so cool and efficient. So we're excited. We also put drip irrigation in the flower beds. Mm-hmm. Very efficient. Water at the root zone. And no misting, no overspray.
No overrun.
Oh, no overrun or runoff, as we like to say. And again, highly efficient. So we're going to be asking them to let us know how it's going on their water bill.
Yeah, we can do some PR with that. And I know some of the newspapers are interested in covering that story. And
I got to tell you one other thing before we get over to our guest. I was, and you do this too, you do training on the Evolution controller at Chino Basin Water Conservation District, and I got an opportunity to...
And Friday night at Western Municipal Water
Oh,
District.
that's right. It's going to be at their facility in Riverside.
Yes.
And so if you're a homeowner listening, and if you're in the Riverside vicinity, just go to the Western Municipal Water District website, Google Western Municipal Water District, and look for the controller
WIBIC
session.
Right, and all I have to do is just give them a call so they have a reservation. It's free. It goes for 2 hours, and it's going to be pretty exciting.
So, but I got an email this morning from a woman who attended the training at Chino Basin Water Conservation District, and she said that she was saddened looking at dead lawns and dying trees. And she said, with technology, perhaps we can do something about that. We can use water wisely. We can save water, meet the governor's mandate to reduce water consumption by 25%, and still have a decent-looking yard, which is the best of both worlds.
Yeah, people don't realize that you don't have to take out your lawns to have it to have a nice landscape. You can,
but
do it correctly.
You do have to take care of deferred maintenance.
Absolutely,
which we think
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, because that is the one thing that just definitely wastes water.
Absolutely. Any other bright info for the news this week?
Well, the only other thing would be the my hometown Glendora. This in the month of August didn't quite hit their peak water reduction, which was like 41.8% in the month of May when we had some rain, but they reduced their water consumption 33% in the month of August, and so far 35.5% through cumulative, the number of months cumulative since May. So that's pretty good.
Yep.
And LADWP, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, we had the general manager as a guest.
Marcy Edwards.
Edwards. Very informative. told us a lot about the initiatives and the programs and the training that LADWP was undertaking. They exceeded their reduction goal, and in fact, so far through from June through August, they've reduced their water consumption 28.7%, which is above the goal of 16%, which they were given. So, shout out to LADWP.
Absolutely. Well, tonight we're going to talk about My Hood.
Yeah.
Which is behind the orange curtain. And our first guest, we'd like to bring him on, is a gentleman named Rob Hunter. He's the general manager of the Municipal Water District of Orange County. So good evening, Rob. Are you there?
Hi, Rob.
How are you doing tonight? Easy name to remember.
Well, we're very pleased and appreciative of you taking time from your busy schedule to inform our listeners about what the Municipal Water District of Orange County is doing because of this drought. So maybe you could share with us, to start with, the nature of the operations. I know many of our listeners know that there are retail agencies who they pay directly for the water that's delivered to them, and then there are agencies that do some wholesale and some retail, and then there's agencies that are just strictly wholesale. Can you share with us some information about your agency?
Yes, we are a Met member agency. We were formed in 1951 to import water into most of Orange County. We're a wholesaler, and I have 28 member agencies, ranging from groundwater agencies to retail providers of service.
Wow. So since 1951, that was even a couple years before I was born. That's been a while, so that's great. Do you have some history in terms of like what forces drove the creation of this agency that then serves its member agencies?
Well, going into the Wayback Machine here to the 1940s and 50s, there were essentially three major population centers in Orange County, which are referred to as the three cities, which are three Met member agencies: Fullerton, Anaheim, and Santa Ana. And the rest of the county were farmers growing crops, pretty much.
Wow.
So to get water to the rest of the county, imported water, MODOC was formed. Then it worked with Met, and then we, in fact, were the organization that built some of the major pipelines in Orange County to move that water around.
Excellent.
So I know you guys have been working on on reliability of water, both in the quality of the water and the reliability of having sources available down the road. And maybe can you share some of that with us? And I know that's a big thing you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's one of the major things that we have going right now, and one of our major parts of our mission. Right now we have a reliability study going in the county, and what that looks at is what is the reliability, the dependability, what percentage of the time do you meet all the needs of the public, both in terms of supply, the actual wet water, and then the system. And you can think of supply as either imported water or groundwater or stored water, and the system are the pipes and pumps. So in a major earthquake on different areas, what's the reliability of that system to recover and get water to the public? And we're doing a major county-wide study right now, including the three cities, of looking at providing usable, peer-reviewed information to help decision makers, elected officials, board members, utilities, and the general public make decisions about how we will meet demand over the next 25 years.
Are any of the lines subject to fault lines from earthquakes?
We have a couple major fault lines in Orange County. So we have lines that are susceptible, but in the greater area, the Los Angeles greater area, the Colorado River Aqueduct coming in crosses over, I believe, twice the San Andreas, and the State Water Project kind of follows the San Andreas Fault for a number of crossings, and both in major earthquakes would potentially have issues.
So when you guys put these plans together, what do they think about, or what do they do for emergency situations? How does that get handled?
On the emergency side, and we just completed a seismic study here in the county of looking at what would be the predicted damage to those pipelines or those wells, and how long it would take to recover. How long would it take if there's a well sheared? How long would it take to go and repair that system to restore service to the public? And then the second part of this study will be what type of projects can we do to increase that reliability, to either prevent the damage or decrease the amount of time it would take to repair that.
I think it's fascinating to hear some of the variables, the factors that you have to consider and then extrapolate over the next 20, 25 years in terms of demand increase. I've got to think that it takes hydrologists or engineers, some very technical people to weigh in on developing the facts that then the decision makers can use to appropriate funds to do the things that are warranted. If you could take a couple minutes, and if you had the ability to share with an audience that are consumer oriented, that we're just used to going to the faucet, turning on the water, it's there, we can drink it with confidence. Very, very seldomly do we ever have a time when we don't have water coming out of our faucet or through our sprinkler system. It's like a lot of work is happening behind the scenes without any really big advertising or communication effort to inform the public about the significance of what is being done to assure consistent delivery of quality water. So if you had something to say to those of us that were kind of ignorant about those issues, what might that be?
Well, I think one thing that may sum it up is over the last 20 years, Southern California, through our ratepayers, have invested about $15 billion proactively in projects in Southern California for water resources. Part of that translates to storage. Now, last year, taking out of storage, we're obviously in a drought, everything you guys were talking about in the intro to the show there. Mm-hmm. But we're still using more water than we're capturing right now. So we're taking water out of storage. We took out about 1.2 million acre feet in the metropolitan area in 2014.
Wow,
that is more storage than there was in total till about 1995.
Which isn't really that long ago.
If we had not made this investment, we would have been completely out of water.
Wow.
How much?
Wow.
What do you think of the current infrastructure that exists? And we'll just stay with Orange County because that's where you are. How much more do you need, and where do you see this being placed? Should we should put these things? Because there definitely needs part of the problem. When El Nino comes, Orange County and Southern California really does have a lot of places to store water, to collect the water. It's all going to go out, or most of it's going to go to the
collected
ocean.
1.2 million acre feet, but
but we need more than that.
Yeah.
So what are people thinking? How are we going to do this more in the future? Because we're never, even when the drought goes away, we're still going to be cautious, I'm sure.
We are going to be cautious, and kind of the feeling on the street is, even if we have a El Nino this year, which is a strong El Nino or a wet year, is about a 50-50 chance right now. But if we do, it's likely that we'll still have some drought restrictions in place, because one wet year is not going to have us recover.
Right.
Part of the issue on heavy rains is you don't have enough above ground storage to hold that water so you can get it into the ground for groundwater resources. So a lot of it blows out to the ocean, and you don't have it then for future use. So that's one consideration of how do we deal with stormwater, how do we hold that so that we can use it in dry years. And most people don't realize that 12 of the last 16 years have been below average precipitation years.
Well, we need to tell El Nino to do it over the Sierras and the mountains. So
we need some snow.
Yeah.
But what we need it there is in snow. If
Right.
if it's warm, which it's likely to be, it still just runs off. We need cold weather up north with it, so it locks up in snow.
Yeah.
Right.
And as you say, we can't depend on that, on all the golden scenario where everything that helps reduce the drought, comes to bear. In fact, we ought to, and I'm sure that none of the water agencies are really planning on that. Now, you mentioned obviously the importer. You're the importer of water. I'm assuming primarily from Metropolitan Water District or perhaps the Colorado River. But you also mentioned ground storage. Are there any other sources of water that your agency mines or taps to deliver that reliable sort, or to have the reliability you're looking for?
Well, in Orange County, our sister agency runs the indirect potable reuse, the water recycling, that collects the treated effluent from our neighboring wastewater treatment plant, brings it over the fence line, treats it to a very, very high standard, and then takes it up and lets it percolate back into the groundwater for that reuse. They're currently at about 100 million gallons per day of that.
Wow.
They've just gone from 70 to 100. And we're working with Met, who's at the beginning of a process with the LA County Sand District to take water from their plant and start out with a 70 million gallon per day plant that would ultimately go up to 150 million gallons per day project. So if we think of the Colorado River and the State Water Project and the Bay Delta as two rivers, this recycled water is a third river, and of course our groundwater resources. And in Orange County overall, about half of our drinking water comes from groundwater.
And has the agency been pleased with what has been conserved over the last, say, 3 to 5 years? I know conservation, water use reduction is certainly saves it for the future. Is that considered another source, or is that considered a different kind of, savings?
We look at it on the demand side, but in our reliability, we look at investments in additional water use efficiency, conservation, as another project. And part of what we're looking at as we put together portfolios of projects to meet those future demands, how much can you gain by investing in additional water use efficiency? Is that the most bang for the dollar? Is that the best bet, or should you invest money into other projects along with that?
Right.
So it is a real project, just as building a recycling facility or more groundwater production or storage would be.
Great, thank you.
I know you offer rebate programs to customers. Can you elaborate a little about that?
Well, we serve as kind of the central hub in Orange County for the rebate programs and the water use efficiency programs. And I think, as probably everybody is aware, in the last couple of years, that program has gone absolutely through the ceiling.
Yeah.
In the last few years, Orange County has replaced about 31 million square feet of turf, saving about 4,000 acre feet a year of water. We do the processing for most of the agencies in Orange County in terms of tapping into that $350 million Met pool of rebate money, as well as getting grants from Bureau of Recreation and other sources, administering those funds. This past year and this fiscal year, most of that has been tied up in the turf replacement program, but we also run what is actually per dollar a greater return in terms of water savings, which is the actual hardware replacement.
Right. Mm-hmm. I know that, plus the education that you and all the other water agencies are doing has been real help. We're going to be backed up here against a break, and anyway, we wanted to let you go and thank you for your valuable time coming in, and gave our listeners a lot more information to know about what you guys do. And we'll be back in a few seconds, and join us on KCAA 1050 AM.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog, or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
Were you involved in an auto accident? Do you know where to go for repairs? Are you tired of getting ripped off by high prices and inferior work? Then visit us at Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint, located in Riverside at 6411 Industrial Avenue, Suite A. We have an award-winning team of specialists with more than 40 years of auto body work experience. We were also voted #1 in the Inland Empire by MyFox LA. We work with all major insurance companies and use state-of-the-art equipment to get your car back on the road. We work on all makes and models of cars, including RVs. Our auto paint specialist will make sure the job is done right. At Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint, your satisfaction isn't just a goal, it's what drives us. We focus on your needs. Call us for a free estimate at 951-637-1365. That's 951-637-1365. Inland Empire Auto Body and Paint.
Hi, this is Steve Sanchez, and you hear me every weekend on my show talk about the importance of a financial plan, planning for your retirement, planning for your children's college education fund. Unfortunately, most people don't realize that they need to set up a foundation before any good financial plan can come into place. That's where life insurance comes in. Now, most people think life insurance is just an expense, but it's not. It can be a way of life, a standard of living when someone, the breadwinner, is literally removed out of the picture because of a premature death. Look, I believe in it. I've got life insurance for my family, and I want you to find out how easy it is to get life insurance and even qualify through some new non-medical life insurance policies. Look, my friends at eFinancial can help you do this. They're standing by to give you your free life insurance quote today. Call 866-807-9961. 866-807-9961 for your free life insurance quote today. And don't forget to tell them Steve sent you.
We're back with the Water Zone Show with Mike and Rob, and hope everybody's doing good. And that was a good conversation with Rob Hunter from Municipal Water District of Orange County. And to stay with the theme of my hood, we have another gentleman we'd like to bring on. His name is Mihu Patel, and he's Director of Water Production and Groundwater Replenishment System Program Manager. And Mihu, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us, and we're going to be interested in learning a little bit about what this groundwater replenishment is about, and how you decide where to put that groundwater, if you inject the water in someplace or it just percolates in. So we're looking forward to getting this kind of information from you. So thanks again for joining us.
And for clarification, because I know Mike and I talked about this last week, about what people call this thing.
Yes.
and I did some more research about it.
Really?
Just to find out. And then we got the professional on the phone. He's going to tell us if I'm right or wrong, if I found out the truth. You know, if I look up and Google things or look in past articles, they always talk about the term, and you're right, it's kind of funky to say, toilet to tap water. And I understood it was drummed up by opposition to people who didn't want to drink recycled water. And I understand the correct terminology is now indirect potable reuse water. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's the actual official term, and the term not only they use in regulations, but what it's commonly known as, at least among people who operate facilities like ours.
Right.
So that again, it was what again? Indirect
potable reuse water.
Reuse water. Okay.
I want to be politically correct, but I
well, we want to be accurate, and
yes.
we want to be factual about what we report. But the interesting thing is that this has been going on for some time. When did the Orange County Water District start working on this capability?
So it's there's a kind of a long history behind it, but basically the facility that exists today has been in operation since January 2008. So we're getting close to going on 7 years. But we had a plant before that, a treatment plant that was called Water Factory 21, and it operated since 1975 till about 2004. So almost 30 years it operated, and it did a similar thing with a different sort of technology where it took treated wastewater, put it through an advanced treatment process, and then instead of directly replenishing the groundwater like the current facility does, it injected the water along the coast to keep seawater out of the groundwater aquifer. So it kind of formed an underground wall of water, and that plant had ran for such a long time. Smaller plant, only about 10 million gallons a day to 15 million gallons a day of treatment. But that was our first foray into doing recycled water as a way to cut down our usage on potable water for some of the things that are critical to the aquifer, like protecting it from seawater intrusion, until we came up with our current facility, which is, like I said, been operating since January 2008.
Wow. Can I just say one thing, and that is, Rob, when you first said people object to recycled water, well, guess what? We're using a water that was used eons ago. Every drop of water that we consume is recycled from the past, right? So we've got to make sure that we understand that. But the fact that you mentioned that this water was injected along the coast to protect groundwater aquifers from seawater intrusion, is that something that and this is a little off topic, but I've heard of the same issue, seawater intrusion up in the Bay Delta. Have they ever considered, or would they ever consider, using this technology to prevent seawater intrusion there?
Yeah, I think there's a little different situation where the gap or the breaches for where seawater comes in is much larger than what we're dealing with here, and probably economically is not as feasible. Here it's pretty distinct, and in both Orange County and LA County, where there's geologic conditions that cause the seawater to be able to come in, and so the breaches are pretty distinct, and we know the distances and the depths, so it makes it pretty efficient to find a way to inject water, or basically build the water level higher than sea level to get it to a point where we can keep seawater out. So I think, the short answer is probably not as feasible there, but very common here in Southern California.
Now, I understand there's a big cost difference between doing what you do for this indirect potable reuse water versus a desalination plant. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line of it is whether it's seawater desalination or what we're doing, which is another form of desalination. We use the same technology, the reverse osmosis, but the cost of doing something like this is all tied to the amount of salt in the water. Where seawater has 30 to 40,000 parts per million of salt, wastewater, or the wastewater we're dealing with, has about 1,000. So inevitably, it takes less energy, in the form of pressure, and we can get higher recoveries because there's less salt to begin with. And reverse osmosis is just, the efficiency of it is directly related to how much salt's coming in. So it's always going to be cheaper, less pressure, and get more recovery out of the process to try to treat a water with less salt than something with more in it.
Now, I understand there's in researching this, I understand there's different technologies. Aside from the reverse osmosis, there's UV, and I know there's some other places like yours down in Point Loma, the San Diego's Point Loma water reclamation facility, and even I know a big one they used over in Adelaide, Australia. They use similar or a little different types, or are there many other types of ways to purify the water?
They're similar, but there's and this is where it gets a little complicated and convoluted with the way regulations are. But there's what we call tertiary effluent. It's basically there's a minimum level that the wastewater that needs to be treated to where that can somehow be used to help replenish a groundwater supply. Most plants like ours go to a level that's much higher so that we can get the water to almost an ultra-pure kind of level of treatment, and that's where you inevitably would use something like ultraviolet light or some kind of oxidant like ozone or peroxide, in addition to some sort of membrane process like reverse osmosis or reverse osmosis with microfiltration or ultrafiltration. It depends upon the situation where the water is going to end up inevitably as to the level of treatment.
Do you replenish any of that with any additional minerals?
Yeah, so the process we use, what we do is we take the water, I think you heard a little bit about it from Rob as well, that we take the secondary effluent. So the water's already been through a certain level of treatment that leaves it at a point where it could be discharged into the ocean, but it couldn't be used for anything at that point. When we put it through our process using microfiltration, reverse osmosis, and ultraviolet light with hydrogen peroxide, because the water goes through reverse osmosis, it has very little salt or alkalinity when it's done. It's actually corrosive. Mm-hmm. So we do add mineral back in the form of calcium hydroxide, or what we call hydrated lime. So we're trying to build the alkalinity and stability and pH of the water back up again, so that we can put it not only in our distribution, our different pipelines that are susceptible to corrosion if we use ultra pure water without stabilization, and then also to make the water more stable for when it does inevitably get back into the ground in the way that we do it, and we do that by two methods basically.
So what kind of academic background does one have to do the kind of work that you do?
We have a kind of a wide-ranging skill set, but typically people like me, we're engineers, civil engineers, or chemical engineers or mechanical engineers, and then we have a whole staff of different scientists, biologists, environmental scientists that also work in the process as well. But typically the people that help run the plant or at least troubleshoot it are usually engineers, and then we have scientists that also help. And then we have obviously our most important, which is our treatment plant operators, and they have a a variety of different educations and skill sets.
Wow. Well, I'm just curious because, I mean, there's a lot of technology in the things that you've been describing.
Well, what I hear when I was, after Mike and I had a conversation last week on air about this, a lot of people freak out about the water. And, for example, pharmaceuticals, you always read about people dumping their pills down the toilet and throwing them away. And then people, even myself, I worry about people with blood contagions that goes into that. And as Mike explained, I'm sure, yes, it sterilizes it, I guess is the right word here. But that's still a big thing for people to understand about it. But as I know, I live in Orange County, and I know we've had recycled water for a long time. It's not something that's brand new. But you do get a group of people who don't understand the technology or don't want to believe it. That it can protect them from any of these pharmaceuticals and any of these blood contagions that get into the water.
Well, that's kind of why this is so appropriate, because we typically fear what we don't know, and here you're explaining to us the kinds of technologies that are used to do it. But to a layperson, how might you assuage their concern and fear that somehow they're going to get contaminated with some of the things that Rob mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of our our hurdles to overcome and even getting our project built was first the public outreach and education portion. And a big part of that was not only explaining where does the water come from that we get now, like Rob kind of mentioned, we're heavily reliant on imported water, but we do have groundwater, luckily, in this part of Orange County. And why there's a need to go to recycled water, even though it's been through this level of treatment. A big part of it is to show people and educate people on where the water comes from, that all water is recycled, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. But the way that we try to alleviate the fear is to show that we have what we call a multi-barrier approach. So we have a process that removes the larger particles, something that gets it even to the even smaller contaminants, and then we have a chemistry process that will also break down organics. So most of the contaminants that that people are concerned about, like pharmaceuticals or other contagions, they tend to be, when we're looking at a molecular scale, they're pretty large, and they're well removed by something like reverse osmosis. And if for some reason they're not totally removed by reverse osmosis, there is still what we call the advanced oxidation, or the ability to break apart the bonds, the oxygen bonds that all organics have, and turn them into byproducts that aren't harmful. And so we think with this multi-barrier approach, this is the best of the best in technology. And inevitably, even what is considered as pristine water source, like a river or a lake, they all have similar potential for contaminants. It's just that when we're talking about reclaiming wastewater, we're usually dealing in a bigger unknown or a larger concentration potentially of these contaminants, but the removal mechanism is still the same. And by having a multi-barrier approach, we feel like we can get to all of these contaminants, and that's shown in the fact that we haven't had any permit violations or any detects on anything of harm. And you can see in our annual reports, and we have all that stuff on our website, that water is very pure at the end of the day, so pure we have to add minerals back in. And that's one way that we try to alleviate people's fears, and know that this water never actually goes directly to your tap. And that's the whole concept behind indirect potable reuse, is that it has to go underground, and when it goes underground and mixes with the other naturally occurring groundwater, it takes 6 months to years to actually be making its way to the closest production well, or a well where people would pump and use as part of the drinking water supply.
People read in the newspapers about the nuclear reactors all over the world that with all the safety features built in, and like what happened in Japan a couple of years ago. Can you talk a little about the safety issues that you have in the system that basically would prevent or prevent any accident from happening that would contaminate water into the public?
Yeah, so we have there's a few things that we use as for quality control, and the main part being we have a lot of very sophisticated online instrumentation. So we have different analyzers and other instrumentation that can detect when a process isn't running properly. And they also can detect if a process is about to start running in a range where it shouldn't, and it can shut down processes. So we have a lot of different safeguards in that respect using our computer system that controls the plant. And then to back that up, we also take samples on a very frequent basis and have our own lab on site that's state certified, and the water is inevitably checked and analyzed, hundreds of times. And between that and the computer system that controls everything and our experience in running reclamation facilities, we've got a lot of safeguards in place, and that's part of why the plant has been permitted and been seen as an example of a way you could do this safely. Is that at the end of the day, the fact that the water doesn't go directly to anyone's tap gives another layer of protection, because once it goes underground, there's several months to years before that water would ever see someone's home, that you have time to figure out what you could do if for some reason you thought water was released from the plant that wasn't up to specification. But in our case, we have enough safeguards along the way through all the treatment processes that we can turn the plant off, or it'll turn itself off if we're out of range on certain contaminants. And that whole plan and how we deal with those safeguards is something that had to get approved not only by State Water Resources Control Board, but what used to be called the Department of Public Health and is now called the Division of Drinking Water. So all of this has been vetted through several regulatory agencies, and we get surprise inspections and yearly reports and inspections we have to do to show that we're following this plan that we put together to help safeguard the plant against any contaminants making their way through our process.
I might suggest that many of us homeowners who don't have any type of backflow prevention on our sprinkler systems probably put ourselves more at risk from contamination from backflow events than from the processes that that your agency is using. So
between backflow and plumbing in your home having issues, there's probably more risk in that than there is in the water that's going to make its way into the groundwater.
But yet most of us are just ignorant about those potentials, so you got to put it in perspective. And certainly the safeguards that you have identified, I think, are significant. And that's one of the things we like to do, Rob and I, is to get some of this information out, because we do have a podcast that will be available after the show that others can download and listen to what you've had to say, which has been very, very informative.
I noticed in my water that it tastes different. I'm not saying it because
between when and when.
No, from a couple of years ago, but it could be I have older pipes, and as you and I just talked about, and I know a lot of, again, part of the anxiety about all of this is people don't have all the information like we're learning now. That's important.
Now, I was wondering where that little thing on your back was coming from. Kind of curls up.
That little hump. Yeah, I don't know. Good point. I'll turn to the camera. They can see that. Do you? Some cities and some water agencies, they agree to put fluoride in the water, and some people don't want that in for their kids. And what is that? What do you do at your facilities? Is that something that's added, that's allowed to be added, that you recommend, that you don't recommend, and that's the first part. And then the second question, I also read that a lot of farmers, not necessarily in Orange County, but other places where they have similar facilities like you, they argue the farmers don't want it because they don't want to feed the cows and the animals that water. Can you expand a little on that, maybe?
Yeah, see, we're a little bit unique in that we don't actually send water to anyone's home. We're a groundwater management agency, so basically we're just here to make sure the groundwater aquifer that's in North and Central Orange County stays full enough that we can meet all the water needs, so sustainable, and then keep it free from contamination. But fluoride is something that's done all over the country, and it's got definitely its benefits, and it's well established that it's got benefits over the hazards that people inevitably think could happen, and it's basically a city by city decision. And so most water that you get comes from a city water department, sometimes from a private water department, but those cities inevitably have to decide. But in our process, since we're just replenishing the groundwater, we don't add anything to the water other than the mineral to make it stable.
Right.
And then on the other question about the farmers, I think where we've read stories and we've heard from others, what farmers inevitably are a little bit, I guess, lack of a better word, squeamish about is using what they call the purple pipe water, or the water that's not been treated to ultra pure quality, the one that's been treated for irrigation, certain crops. So that's been through a lesser level of treatment. It's basically sand or media filtration after it's been through the wastewater treatment plant, not through membranes or UV. That's the type of water that they seem to be more concerned about. In some cases, that may be justified. But in places where there are farms that are influenced by water like ours, our water ends up actually being better than the water they would normally get because it's far less salty and it's been stripped of all the organics and other things that could be of issue. That's what most farmers would like, is a good sustainable well, because a lot of the farms are run from groundwater, and if there's a agency that's managing the groundwater properly and able to replenish the groundwater with quality water, I think then it's a win-win for everyone. And that's where most of the issue has come with this drought, is other places where the groundwater isn't managed properly, and then it becomes more of a quantity issue than a quality issue. But reclaimed water has its place, and it's very common, and it's even more common in industrial uses as well. And I think it's going to become more common as the drought continues. But it takes various forms. There's not one kind of reclaimed water. So that's kind of the distinction, is what type of water are you actually going to produce by taking this treated wastewater and putting it through additional treatment. In
this days of tumultuous corruption and terror and everything else, they talk about, they worry about the electrical grid going down. What's your opinion on safety of water, not from necessarily their plant, but I mean, how protected are we that somebody can't come and fly a little model plane carrying Seraphim and drop it off in a reservoir?
Yeah, the good thing about water, like from our chemistry class in school, it's a universal solvent. So to realistically try to, sabotage an entire water supply, it just takes so much of any kind of contaminant that it'd be very difficult to get that amount of contaminant into a distribution system. And most drinking water plants, and actually all of them, but to a certain extent they're got different levels, they have a much higher level of security than other facilities because they're considered essential. And so it's difficult to just come in there and be able to do that or get into the pipeline system because it's all buried several feet underground and closed. It's a whole closed system. Even large reservoirs, which people are worried about sometimes when there's a storage reservoir or a big storage tank, it just takes so much that if for someone to do that and someone not to notice seems pretty unlikely.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I think I maybe watched a show where, they took a little vial and they dumped it in this reservoir, and it's like, okay, everybody's dead. And 10 minutes
and the
later.
science of that, there just isn't anything that can be that, that quick to contaminate that much water.
Yeah. Well, I heard that Metropolitan Water District is planning to possibly do a facility like what you are involved in today. Is that something that affects your operation at all?
In some ways it may actually help ours. I mean, what the main thing that we'd like, we're helping them and encouraging them is that the more people that build facilities like ours, the more comfortable people will be with it, and the easier it'll be to implement in the future and be another solution to the drought. But at the same time, we could potentially even buy some of that water. There's a possibility too. I mean, to us, it doesn't matter where we get the water that we need to replenish our groundwater. If they're producing water similar to ours, it may be another source and prevents us from having to find other sources in the future after we've reached our ultimate expansion. So I think it's a good thing for everybody, including us.
Yeah. Excellent. I just want to say thank you very much. You've been very clear in your explanations, very informative.
I'll keep drinking water.
Yep, we're going to keep drinking tap water. It's a lot less expensive than bottled water.
Definitely.
So anyway, keep up the great work. We appreciate the unsung efforts of so many water agencies throughout the state of California. Seems like the only times you guys get visibility is during a drought, and then it's not necessarily good visibility. So thank you on behalf of us consumers.
Yeah, we appreciate that very much. And coming up to our hour here, so we're going to have to skedaddle out of here. So thanks for listening to The Water Zone with Mike and Rob on KCEA 1050 AM. Join us next week, and we'll broadcast live from the Water Smart Innovations in Las Vegas. Have a good week, everybody.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Exploring science and the sea. Researchers may not be ready to hold a conversation with them just yet, but they say they can identify a small group of right whales just by the sounds of their voices. That may provide new insights into the behavior of these endangered giants. The researchers studied North Atlantic right whales, which are found off the coast of Canada and the United States. They once numbered in the thousands.